Drake didn't just drop music this time. He dropped revenge. And the entire rap industry is scrambling because some of the biggest names in hip-hop just realized they got mentioned on all three of his surprise albums. Rick Ross, Kendrick Lamar, DJ Khaled, LeBron James, A$AP Rocky, J. Cole, even Jay-Z, nobody was safe. What started as a late-night album release instantly turned into a public execution across social media, live streams, and rap pages. The craziest part is how personal Drake made it. These weren't random shots for attention. Every bar sounded like it came from years of betrayal, silent grudges, and people switching sides after the Kendrick war exploded back in 2024. Drake remembered who stayed quiet. He remembered who laughed. And now he's airing all of it out in front of the entire world. But the reactions? That's where things got dangerous. Rick Ross already fired back, calling Drake washed. Fans think Kendrick might respond next. And the internet is now trying to figure out whether Drake just restarted the greatest rap war of this generation or completely destroyed what was left of his relationships in the culture. The night Drake dropped those 3 albums felt less like a music release and more like somebody setting off alarms across the entire rap industry. Nobody saw it coming. No long rollout. No fake mysterious billboards. No countdown clocks. 1 minute the internet was calm. And the next minute, people were staring at 43 new Drake songs, spread across 3 separate projects like the man had been hiding inside a studio bunker for 2 straight years, planning revenge. And the second fans started listening, everything changed. Because this wasn't Drake making heartbreak music. This wasn't Drake chasing another summer anthem. This sounded like a man who had been sitting in silence watching everybody around him switch sides after the Kendrick Lamar battle, writing names down one by one and waiting for the perfect moment to respond. The craziest part is how fast social media caught on. Within minutes, rap pages were posting lyrics. Twitter spaces exploded. Streamers started breaking down bars line by line in real time. People weren't even listening to the albums for songs anymore. They were hunting for victims. Every track felt like another person getting dragged into the middle of Drake's war. And right at the top of that list was Rick Ross. Now, to really understand why this situation got so ugly, you gotta remember how close Drake and Ross used to be. These dudes weren't casual collaborators. They built records together that dominated hip-hop for years. We're talking about songs that defined entire eras. Lux these up, boss music, club anthems. They moved like partners. Every time Ross needed a huge record, Drake showed up. Every time Drake needed that larger-than-life energy, Ross was there. For over a decade, they looked untouchable together. Then the Kendrick situation happened. The second Drake started losing public momentum during the 2024 rap war, the industry started shifting. Suddenly, people who used to stand beside him started getting real quiet. Some switched sides openly. Others acted neutral. But Ross? Ross didn't stay neutral at all. He jumped directly into the smoke and started throwing punches at Drake publicly. That's what made this feel personal. Drake clearly never got over it. And when he finally addressed Ross on the new albums, the tone wasn't emotional. It was cold, surgical, like somebody reading accusations in court. Drake basically suggested that Ross benefited heavily from his support over the years and implied that without the Drake stimulus package, Ross wouldn't have had the same streaming power in the modern era. That line alone sent the internet into chaos, because hip-hop fans immediately split into 2 sides. One side said Drake was exposing the truth about how much influence he had behind the scenes. The other side said Drake sounded bitter and arrogant, trying to take credit for another rapper's success. But then Ross responded, and that's when this stopped being music and turned into active warfare. Ross jumped on Instagram almost immediately after the albums dropped, looking completely unbothered. That's what shocked people the most. He wasn't acting hurt. He wasn't acting surprised. He looked like somebody who had been waiting for Drake to finally say his name. Ross started clowning the albums, calling Drake washed, mocking the rollout, even comparing Drake's project titles to his own upcoming release like he was already preparing a counterattack. And fans noticed something important right away. Ross never sounded defensive. He sounded excited. That's dangerous in rap beef because the most dangerous opponents are usually the ones who enjoy the chaos. Ross looked like he wanted the war. He looked energized by it. Even worse for Drake. A lot of people online started saying Ross handled the response better than expected because instead of sounding emotional, he sounded entertained. Meanwhile, Drake fans were arguing that Ross was only acting fearless because social media already decided Drake lost the Kendrick battle 2 years ago. According to them, everybody suddenly feels comfortable attacking Drake because they think the aura around him cracked after Not Like Us became a cultural phenomenon. And honestly, that might be true, because the deeper you listen to these albums, the more obvious it becomes that Drake is still thinking about Kendrick constantly. Even when he's dissing Ross, LeBron, or Khaled, the shadow of Kendrick hangs over every single song. The entire project feels like Drake trying to rewrite history in real time. That's why people are so obsessed with this rollout. It doesn't feel like a normal album cycle. It feels psychological. Drake sounds like somebody trying to reclaim control of the culture after spending 2 years watching the internet laugh at him nonstop. Think about how brutal that period was. Memes everywhere. Not Like Us playing in clubs, sports arenas, parties, award shows. People screaming Kendrick lyrics in public while Drake became the punchline. Most artists would disappear after something like that. Drake did the opposite. He came back louder. And instead of targeting just Kendrick, he targeted everybody he felt contributed to the downfall. That's what makes these albums feel bigger than simple diss tracks. Drake is treating this like betrayal from an entire ecosystem. Former collaborators, athletes, producers, industry executives, media personalities. Nobody escaped the smoke. And another name that immediately caught attention was DJ Khaled. Now, this situation hit differently because Khaled and Drake go way back. Khaled constantly brought Drake onto massive records whenever he needed guaranteed hits. Their chemistry made money, so fans always assumed their relationship was solid behind the scenes. Apparently, Drake didn't see it that way, because during the Kendrick War, Khaled stayed mostly quiet publicly. And according to Drake, that silence mattered. One of the bars on the album basically accused Khaled of disappearing when loyalty was being tested. Drake framed it like Khaled avoided taking sides to protect his own image instead of standing beside somebody he called family for years. And the internet instantly exploded over those lyrics because Drake also tied religion and politics into the shot, which made the conversation even more controversial. Some fans thought the line crossed the line. Others argued Drake was simply exposing fake industry friendships. But the real reason the Khaled situation became interesting is because Khaled didn't respond. At all. No videos. No captions. No cryptic posts. Nothing. And when somebody like DJ Khaled suddenly goes silent during a major rap controversy, people notice immediately. Social media started treating his silence like confirmation that Drake's words hit deeper than expected. That's one thing this album keeps doing over and over again. Turning silence into evidence. Every time somebody doesn't respond, the internet starts creating theories. Maybe they're scared. Maybe they're plotting. Maybe Drake exposed something real. The longer people stay quiet, the more the mystery grows. And then Drake took things to another level completely when he mentioned LeBron James. That's when casual rap fans started paying attention too. Because LeBron and Drake publicly looked cool for years. Courtside appearances, concerts, Instagram interactions. They moved like genuine friends. So hearing Drake suddenly question LeBron's loyalty caught people completely off guard. The craziest thing is Drake didn't just throw random bars either. He attacked LeBron's entire reputation for switching teams and aligning himself with whatever benefits him most. Drake basically framed LeBron as somebody who changes sides whenever the pressure gets too heavy. That was a massive accusation, especially because everybody understood the deeper meaning underneath it. Drake wasn't really talking about basketball. He was talking about the Kendrick situation. He was implying LeBron watched the culture turn against Drake and quietly moved with the crowd instead of standing beside him publicly. And once again, LeBron stayed silent. No tweets, no response, nothing, which only made social media louder. Now people are debating whether Drake genuinely exposed fake friendships in the industry or whether he's spiraling publicly after never emotionally recovering from the Kendrick defeat. And honestly, that's why these albums are dominating conversation right now. Not because every diss is perfect, not because every bar landed, but because the emotion behind it feels real. Drake sounds angry, not performative angry, actually angry. Like somebody who spent 2 years replaying every betrayal in his head, waiting for the moment he could finally speak on it publicly. And the scary part is we're still only scratching the surface of who got mentioned on these albums. Because once the ASAP Rocky and J. Cole bars enter the conversation, things got even more personal. The moment fans reached the ASAP Rocky bars, the entire mood around Drake's albums changed completely. Because now this wasn't just rap beef anymore. This was personal history, celebrity relationships, ego, jealousy, and years of internet rumors all crashing together at once. Everybody already knew the tension between Drake and Rocky had been sitting under the surface for years. Even when neither one of them said anything publicly, fans could feel it. And the reason was obvious. Rihanna. For a long time, Drake and Rihanna had one of the most talked about situationships in entertainment. Every few months, it felt like people were trying to figure out whether they were together, broken up, reconnecting, or secretly still involved behind the scenes. Drake openly admired her. He made songs about her. He spoke about her publicly in ways that made it obvious the feelings were real. Then ASAP Rocky entered the picture. Not only did Rocky end up with Rihanna, they built an actual family together. Kids, public appearances, real relationship energy. And ever since that happened, the internet always wondered how Drake truly felt about it behind closed doors. Well, now, people think they know. Because Drake absolutely unloaded on Rocky across multiple songs. One of the most talked about lines involved Drake mocking the fact that Rihanna supposedly didn't publicly promote Rocky's music. And the reason that bar exploded online is because celebrity social media support means everything now. Fans analyze every like, every repost, every comment. So Drake weaponized that exact culture against Rocky, basically saying, if your own woman isn't publicly standing behind your music, what does that say? That's the kind of disrespect that immediately turns into viral debate material. But then Drake went even further. He started spelling Rocky's name directly inside insults. No subliminals, no hidden meanings, no room for fans to debate who he meant. Drake wanted everybody to know exactly who the target was. And honestly, that surprised a lot of people because Drake usually prefers layered shots instead of direct name-dropping. This time he sounded different, more reckless, like somebody who stopped caring about preserving relationships. And what makes the Rocky situation even more dangerous is that Rocky still hasn't fully responded publicly, which means the internet is now doing what it always does, building theories nonstop. Some people think Rocky is too focused on family life to care. Others think he's waiting for the perfect time to strike back musically. And some fans think Rihanna herself might secretly be furious watching Drake drag her relationship back into public drama again. That's the thing about these albums. Every single diss opens another storyline. Nothing stays isolated. The moment Drake disses Rocky, Rihanna trends too. The moment he disses LeBron, sports media jumps into rap conversations. The moment he disses Khaled, political debates start appearing online. Drake turned the albums into one giant internet event where every topic overlaps into another controversy. And then came J. Cole. Now, this situation feels different from the others because there's still genuine respect underneath the tension. Drake doesn't sound like he hates Cole the way he sounds angry at Ross or Kendrick. The energy feels more disappointed than hateful. But disappointment can still cut deep. Everybody remembers what happened during the 2024 Kendrick situation. At first, it looked like the Big Three era was finally turning into an all-out lyrical war. Cole dropped his response record. Fans lost their minds. Hip-hop felt alive again for a second. Then Cole backed away. He apologized publicly, removed himself from the conflict, and basically admitted the situation didn't sit right with him spiritually. That decision split hip-hop fans right down the middle. Some people respected Cole for choosing peace instead of fake internet violence. Others thought he folded under pressure and abandon the competition too early. Apparently, Drake falls into that second category, because on these albums, Drake repeatedly frames himself as the guy who stayed in the war, while everybody else either switched sides or walked away completely. And when he referenced the married rapper stepping back from conflict, everybody immediately knew he meant Cole. The crazy part is Drake didn't even need to say Cole's name directly. The culture understood instantly. And honestly, those bars hit harder than some of the louder disses because they attack Cole's image indirectly. Cole built his reputation around authenticity, wisdom, maturity, and lyrical respect. Drake flipped that narrative and framed Cole's exit from the battle as weakness instead of wisdom. That changes the conversation, because now fans are arguing about whether stepping away from rap beef makes somebody emotionally mature or simply afraid to lose publicly. And unlike some of the other people Drake mentioned, fans actually expect Cole to respond eventually. Not with Instagram rants, not with live streams, through music. That's why people are paying attention closely. Cole is one of the few rappers alive who can still shift the energy of hip-hop with a single verse. If he decides Drake crossed the line, the response could become one of the biggest moments of the year instantly. But even that conversation got overshadowed once fans reached the Jay-Z bars. Now, this is where people started realizing Drake truly fears nobody anymore. Because dissing Jay-Z publicly is different. That's not just another rapper. Jay-Z represents legacy, power, business, influence, and rap royalty all at once. For years, most artists treated Jay with a certain untouchable level of respect. Drake didn't. Instead, he openly mocked the famous internet debate about whether people would rather take dinner with Jay-Z or $500,000 cash. Drake basically said he'd take the money because there's nothing Jay could teach him anyway. That line alone created chaos online. Some fans called it legendary confidence. Others called it pure arrogance. But underneath the disrespect, people noticed something deeper happening. Drake sounds genuinely resentful toward older industry figures who stayed silent during the Kendrick battle. That resentment keeps showing up across the albums repeatedly. To Drake, silence equals betrayal. That's the central theme, tying everything together. And then Drake added another layer by referencing missing streams and industry manipulation theories that circulated during the Kendrick War. Immediately, fans started connecting dots, wondering if Drake believes powerful people behind the scenes actively worked against him during that period. Whether that's true or not almost doesn't matter anymore, because perception drives internet culture. The second fans believe there's hidden industry politics involved, the conversation becomes 10 times bigger than music. Suddenly, people are debating algorithms, streaming manipulation, media favoritism, label politics, all at once. Drake understands exactly how to trigger those conversations. That's why these albums feel engineered for nonstop discussion. Every bar creates another rabbit hole. Every diss creates another theory. And then we finally arrive at the center of the entire storm. Kendrick Lamar. Because make no mistake, every single album still revolves around him somehow. Even when Drake talks about Ross or Khaled or LeBron, Kendrick remains the ghost hanging over the entire project. You can hear it in Drake's tone. He still sounds bothered by what happened in 2024. Not just because Kendrick attacked him lyrically, but because the culture overwhelmingly sided with Kendrick afterward. That's the part Drake seems unable to accept. He watched stadiums scream, "Not like us." He watched celebrities dance to diss records aimed at him. He watched people who once benefited from his success publicly celebrate his humiliation. And these albums feel like his response to all of it. Not one diss track, not one emotional interview. 43 songs. That's what makes this entire rollout fascinating psychologically. Drake didn't come back trying to erase one enemy. He came back trying to challenge the entire narrative surrounding his downfall. And some of the Kendrick bars were brutal. Drake attacked Kendrick's authenticity, questioned his cultural image, mocked his height again, even suggested Kendrick's fanbase only supports him out of guilt and social performance instead of genuine love for the music. Those are dangerous angles because they attack identity, not just lyrics. Drake basically tried to flip Kendrick's entire public image upside down. But the most important thing? Kendrick still hasn't responded. And that silence is driving the internet insane. Because now everybody is wondering the same thing. Is Kendrick ignoring Drake because he already feels like he won? Or is he preparing something devastating behind the scenes? Nobody knows. And that uncertainty is exactly why the culture can't stop talking about these albums right now. What makes this entire situation even crazier is that Drake didn't stop at rappers, producers, or industry executives. He started pulling athletes, city icons, and longtime collaborators into the middle of the storm too. By the time fans finished listening to all 3 albums, it felt less like a rap release and more like Drake emptied out 2 years of frustration onto the entire culture at once. One name that caught a lot of people off guard was DeMar DeRozan. Now, if you know Toronto culture, then you already understand why that mattered. DeRozan wasn't just another basketball player in that city. For years, fans treated him like family. He represented loyalty, sacrifice, heartbreak, all of that. So hearing Drake throw subtle shots at him immediately sparked debate online because people started asking whether Drake was now attacking anybody connected to moments of disappointment in Toronto history. That's how emotional these albums feel. Everything sounds personal. Nothing sounds random. Even when Drake talks about sports, the bars still feel tied to loyalty and betrayal somehow. That theme never leaves the project. Every name mentioned represents somebody Drake believes either abandoned him, doubted him, or quietly watched him fall without stepping in publicly. Then Drake turned his attention toward Mustard. And this part of the album really showed how deeply the Kendrick battle still lives inside Drake's head. Because Mustard produced Not Like Us, which became the anthem attached to Drake's biggest public humiliation. That record followed Drake everywhere. Clubs, sports arenas, TikTok, award shows. The song became bigger than rap itself for a while. Drake clearly never forgot that. So when he started taking shots at Mustard's career, fans immediately understood the deeper meaning. Drake basically tried to minimize Mustard's impact by implying that his biggest cultural moments outside the Kendrick situation happened years ago. In other words, Drake was trying to strip away the idea that Mustard independently contributed to his downfall. That's another pattern all across these albums. Drake keeps reclaiming credit. Anytime somebody gets mentioned, Drake immediately reframes history to remind listeners how much influence he believes he had over their success. Whether it's Ross, Mustard, Khaled, or anybody else, Drake constantly positions himself as the engine behind major moments in modern hip-hop culture. And depending on who you ask, that confidence either sounds powerful or incredibly bitter. That's why the internet feels completely divided right now. One side sees Drake as a mastermind refusing to stay down after the biggest loss of his career. The other side sees somebody spiraling publicly because he never emotionally processed losing control of the culture during the Kendrick battle. And honestly, both interpretations might be true at the same time. Because there are moments on these albums where Drake sounds completely calculated, like he strategically designed every controversy to dominate headlines for months. But then there are other moments where the emotion feels way too raw to be fully strategic. Some bars sound like genuine frustration leaking out in real time. That emotional imbalance is part of what keeps people listening. Fans are trying to figure out whether Drake is controlling the chaos or becoming consumed by it himself. And the scary part is the silence from certain people keeps making the tension worse. Kendrick hasn't responded. ZZ hasn't responded. LeBron hasn't responded. Rocky hasn't responded. Every hour that passes without replies just creates more theories online. Some fans think the silence means Drake failed to bait them into a response. Others think those people are carefully planning their next moves behind the scenes. And in hip-hop, anticipation is everything. Sometimes silence creates more pressure than diss tracks do, especially with somebody like Kendrick Lamar. Because Kendrick doesn't move fast publicly. He moves when he wants the moment to matter most. That's why fans keep refreshing social media every day, waiting for signs that another response record could be coming. But here's the deeper conversation nobody can ignore. This entire rollout changed the atmosphere of rap again. For a while after the 2024 battle, It felt like hip-hop had already chosen its winner and moved on. Kendrick got treated like the undisputed victor. Drake became a guy people joked about online. Most artists in that position would have played it safe afterward. They would have dropped a clean commercial album, ignored the controversy, and focused on rebuilding their image slowly. Drake did the complete opposite. He ran directly back into the fire. That's why even people who dislike the albums are still talking about them nonstop. The scale alone forced the culture to react. 3 albums, 43 songs, multiple disses, multiple industries involved. Drake basically turned his comeback into a giant media event impossible to ignore. And the strategy behind that might actually be genius. Think about it. If Drake only targeted Kendrick again, the conversation becomes simple. People compare one rapper against another. Somebody wins, somebody loses. But when Drake attacks 10 or 15 different people simultaneously, the internet fractures into multiple debates at once. Now, everybody argues about different things. Who had the best response? Did Ross go too far? Will Cole reply? Was Drake right about LeBron? Did Khaled fake loyalty? Is Kendrick ignoring Drake intentionally? The chaos itself becomes the story. And that's exactly how Drake stays at the center of conversation, no matter what side people choose. That's why some analysts are calling this a psychological strategy more than a musical one. Drake flooded the culture with so many storylines at once that nobody can focus on just one narrative anymore. Every social platform is discussing something different from the albums. One clip trends on TikTok, another bar trends on Twitter, another theory blows up on YouTube. The machine keeps moving. And honestly, that's something Drake understands better than almost anybody in entertainment. Even when he loses moments publicly, he somehow finds ways to keep himself impossible to ignore. The man understands attention at a level most artists never will. But now comes the dangerous part. Responses. Because Rick Ross already signaled he's preparing more diss records. Fans are watching June, closely waiting to see whether Ross actually delivers something strong enough to damage Drake's momentum. And if Ross lands even one devastating record, this entire situation could escalate fast. Then there's J. Cole. A lot of people believe Cole has the most to lose reputation-wise if he stays quiet. Drake challenged his image directly. Not his sales, not his fame, his character. In hip-hop, that type of challenge usually demands some kind of lyrical answer eventually. And Kendrick? That's the nuclear option. If Kendrick decides to respond, the entire culture stops again instantly. Because despite all the names Drake mentioned, everybody understands the real war never actually ended. These albums prove that more than anything else. Drake still sounds emotionally attached to the Kendrick battle in ways that feel unresolved. And maybe that's the real reason these projects hit people so hard emotionally. Underneath all the bars, sneak disses, social media reactions, and internet chaos, these albums sound like a man trying to reclaim his identity publicly after watching the world celebrate his embarrassment. That's deeper than rap. That's ego. That's pride. That's legacy. Drake spent years building an image of dominance in music. Then for the first time in a very long time, the culture openly turned against him during the Kendrick battle. And instead of quietly accepting it, he came back swinging at everybody connected to that moment. Whether people think the albums are genius or messy almost doesn't matter anymore. Because Drake accomplished one thing for sure. He forced the entire industry to look at him again. And now the culture is waiting for the next move. Because if even one major artist responds this summer, hip-hop could enter one of the wildest beef eras the genre has seen in decades. The tension is already there. The internet is already invested. Fans already picked sides. All it takes now is one more diss record to push everything over the edge. And deep down, that might have been Drake's goal all along. Not just to respond to the culture, but to pull the entire culture back into war with him. If there's one thing this whole situation proved, it's that hip-hop is officially back in war mode. Drake didn't just release music. He shook the entire culture and forced everybody to pick a side again. Some people think he went too far. Others think this is exactly the energy rap has been missing for years. But one thing nobody can deny is this, the Conversation belongs to Drake right now. Rick Ross already talking crazy. Kendrick still silent. J. Cole watching from the shadows. And the internet refreshing every 5 minutes waiting for somebody else to respond. This summer could turn into one of the wildest eras in modern hip-hop history if even one more major artist decides to jump into the smoke. But now I want to hear from y'all. Did Drake actually body these albums and expose fake industry friendships? Or is he still crashing out over the Kendrick loss from 2024? And out of everybody he dissed, who do you think got hit the hardest? Drop your thoughts in the comments right now, because I already know this debate about to get heated. And if you rock with hip-hop drama, rap breakdowns, industry secrets, and viral celebrity stories like this, hit that subscribe button and turn notifications on, because the second somebody responds, we breaking the whole thing down immediately.